what I do. One of my favourite spiels that I'm running at the moment. So I'll just sort of incorporate with this particular meditation approach that I'm basically doing a lot of lately. I'll just explain exactly why I keep putting emphasis on this and the benefits of it. So over the last, as all of you, many of you are aware that the Buddha put so much emphasis on the contemplation of anicca, dukkha, anatta, and the suttas. You just see this kind of repetitive teaching format just over and over and over again. You know, God knows how many hundreds of times in the suttas. And you know, and essentially on sets of dhammas, you know, on bodily experience, mind experience, the phenomenal world which surrounds you. You know, so what's the actual purpose of this? To keep contemplating the changeability of both internal and external phenomena, you know, within your personal framework. You know, why do we even do this? And so naturally, because the Buddha was an incredibly wise being, you know, his wisdom capability was, you know, essentially it's at the highest level of all beings that you find in this universe. And what he was aiming at with this specific type of contemplation, which is a very broad contemplation, that, you know, you're aiming for a sense of like detachment, letting go of everything that you see within your experience. And it's something you see over time. You know, it might probably take at least a couple of weeks, a couple of months for it to kick in, but you know, you get this when you contemplate the changeability of phenomena just over and over and over again in different ways, because, you know, you can do it thousands and thousands of different ways. You know, whatever thoughts you can think, whatever feelings you can have, whatever contacts you have through this body and mind, material objects that you see in this world of ours. You know, it can be objects for the anicca contemplation, and it's of value to actually zero in on those things which you are really attached to, because you know, realistically that's what's going to block you on the path, which is going to block you as far as attaining real peace and tranquility. Because it's more like, if I give two sides to this particular point, where, you know, say for example, I mean, if you look at an extreme case, you know, things like somebody will say to me, "Oh, look, you know, you're telling me to do anicca, but I'm like really attached to my children. I mean, do you want me to get detached from my children?" But the way this anicca contemplation works over time is that you get a sense of emotional stability, a sense of you know, naturally detachment, and say cooling of emotions, you know, tranquilizing of thought processes in relation with, you know, specific people and memories, and it could be absolutely anything. And because you know, there may not be a percentage of people here who are not necessarily hardcore practitioners, who are not necessarily aiming for, you know, the attainment of enlightenment. But for any of you who, you know, are really interested in developing a spiritual path, you know, you really need to do, you know, one of these contemplations, at least to a small degree, because when you look at the development of meditation, that just say pure samadhi, pure say tranquility of mind, you know, the ability to actually get the mind peaceful. It's only going to get you so far, but it's not going to keep you there. You know, it's possible to have 8 jhanas, you know, for several lifetimes in a row, and, you know, it's useful, but it's only useful if you actually harness it. You know, the tranquilizing power of samadhi to suppress, to, you know, essentially more like to let go, to tranquilize and let go of phenomena. That's the power of samadhi. You know, it's all very nice to get, you know, say peaceful, still, and all the rest of it, but you know, the samadhi is a cause for wisdom to arise. And that wisdom essentially is going to free you on whatever path that you choose to follow. Because, you know, some of you may not be necessarily hardcore Buddhist practitioners. You know, you could be even Hindu practitioners, or, you know, different practicing different types of yoga within specific yoga systems. But you know, if you want to develop a kind of mind state where life becomes a little bit more, at least a little bit more stable, a bit more easier to deal with, you know, if you want the kind of peacefulness which is more enduring, it's got more depth to it, and essentially doesn't fall apart, you know, when things go wrong, because this is the test, especially with people's meditation, you know, and naturally, for the vast majority of people, you know, the meditation is up and down. It's never ever stable, and it's never, you know, it's like doing a hill climb where you're just constantly developing as the weeks and the months go by. You know, most people tend to go up and down over time, but they always improve if they're putting in very concrete courses, you know, that they will get good results in time. So naturally, you know, the samadhi wisdom, you try to keep it at the same level to the best of your ability. And you know, but even for people who have very, very busy lives, even just this very spacious meditation, just doing your favorite meditation mantra just once every minute to start with, and then just do it just all day, all your waking hours, maybe up to 18 hours a day, and most people, they start to see an effect after about 3 or 4 days, you know, because it's just so, you know, you're doing it for such incredible periods of time, and if you feel if you think you see no effect whatsoever, you just bounce it down to maybe every 45 seconds or slightly less. As long as you can function, you know, you can function effectively. You know, you can drive your car, operate power tools, and whatnot quite safely. You can do this kind of practice all day, because you get this kind of background samadhi which gives you a degree, at least a light degree of stillness and energy for investigation. So, you know, you can contemplate between this very, very spacious recitation. So so with this additional point that you know, to see exactly where you're at your practice when, you know, when things get difficult or things go wrong, or there's pressure on, you know, pressure coming in on you from different directions, you know, then you'll actually see just how stable your mind is under pressure. You know, that's because you know, that will be the test. You know, it's all, people can be peaceful and happy until you basically start putting the screws on, and then you actually start to see what you're made of. And even Ajahn Chah, some of the forest masters, I mean, you know, if they got the impression that their students were getting very, very deep samadhi, or getting at least Upachara samadhi, the jhanas, you know, they could easily test these people, these monks, nuns, lay practitioners, just by you know, just by pushing their buttons and just seeing what defilements actually become active in the surface level of the mind, and then they would see quite clearly just how much stability there was. You know, how deep the meditation was actually going on both sides. So what I'll do is I'll just do a slight variation on the theme. We'll do because it's good to actually see. You can do this. You can choose whatever format that appeals to you. But we'll do this. We're looking at the external sense phenomena, external sense experience. So sight, sound, smell, touch, taste. So just imagine external phenomena: sights, sounds, smells, touch, taste. If you get any confusion, just think externally through the senses. External sense phenomena. And I'll focus. I'll ask you to focus on the full chest. I was for about 6 weeks there. I did start to use a very sharp focus, but emotionally I didn't find that so fantastic. So I basically dropped that one. For most meditators, when you go to the full chest, even if you do several hours a day, most people don't get too much trouble because it's very spacious, it's light, it's very tangible, and you can actually feel states when they come up. They essentially, for some people, not everyone, if some people use a very sharp focus, they go to the nose, they go maybe around the mouth, their personal experience starts getting maybe a little bit too intense. And you sort of get states which come up which will may sort of smack you in the face. So it's much better to go light and actually feel your way, even for seasoned meditators, because you'll still get caught, you'll still get tricky states coming up and get caught out. Go broad and then just work with it for a couple of weeks, and if you feel that it's not, you're not getting enough tranquility power, and then just go down to the belly, or even like the middle of the chest. And but you find that by having this more broad body-based focus, that your emotional experience, arising from the meditation practice, it's less less traumatic. So what we'll do is, as I mentioned, 5 external sense phenomena: sight, sound, smell, touch, taste. And so what we're going to do is, as you breathing out, say sight, breathing in, leave a space, breathing out is changeable, and then breathing in, breathing out, sound, breathing in, leave a space, breathing out is changeable. So do those 5 mantras, spaces between the words, and then with the breath meditation, focus on the full chest section. And it's still quite a solid practice. Some people may think it's incredibly light, but it's quite useful, because when you use that kind of broad focus, which is a very bodily feeling based focus, that it still gives you your ability to contemplate is not like impaired. People may think it's too light, there's not enough oomph, but that's not the case. Because for the vast majority of meditators, your insight experience is largely emotionally based. That's where you feel things. That's where you have a sense of knowingness or awareness. So just get yourself in a comfy position, back straight, hands in the lap, and the head upright but comfortable. Make sure you can just breathe into the full chest. There's nothing tight around the waist, ankles and wrists. And so start with those 5 mantras: sight, sound, smell, touch, taste, and focus on the full chest section. Watch the breathing cycle in the full chest between the throat and the belly button. And maybe for the last 5 minutes we'll drop down to the belly, just so you can get a feel, just slightly different feel for it. And I'll just talk you through it as we go along. think that you're not getting peaceful enough, just zero in on those thoughts or feelings which are obstructing you. So whatever phenomena it is, that phenomena is actually do a full contemplation, do a full understanding of any obstructive state which is coming up, and then after following through with that, then do the anicca contemplation on that specific state of mind, that thought or feeling. For those people who feel that they're not getting any tranquility at all, just reduce the focus, drop down to the abdomen, watch the breathing cycle at the abdomen, and see how it goes. So we're coming towards the end of the meditation, so if you just reflect back over the course of the sit and see what worked for you with the practice, and I'll ring the gong 3 times so you can open your eyes when you're ready. Has anybody got any questions on the meditation at all? Yes? Thanks, Christina. Let's see, question to Janaka from Sri Lanka. 1 year ago, while meditating, unexpectedly I had a very intense joy. I was not used to the joy and was very frightened. Ever since then I've been trying to get the joy back but have not been able to. I am feeling exhausted and sad. So the way we would understand the meditation process is that feeling of rapture or joy that arises when you're actually letting go in the practice. So when you really start to sort of get the ball rolling with the practice, and the dynamics of the principle is when you let go and rapture arises, it's like you're almost like freeing energy through the letting go process. You get a sense of joy, like mental energy arising. You look at the course of your enlightenment factors, mindful investigation, and then, through the application of effort, say investigation, energy arises, which becomes rapture. And then as you increase your skill with the practice and you increase the, what's the right word, the refinement of the mind, increasing refinement of the mind, that becomes, say, sukha. Not true sukha, piti sukha, and then samadhi, equanimity, 7 factors of enlightenment. But so this lady saying, I'm feeling exhausted and sad, and she'd like to get back to that state, but unfortunately the more you try to sort of grasp hold of it and pursue it, the more difficult it gets, because essentially you've got to let go. There's got to be like non-attachment to actually see that sense of joyfulness arise. And so the best thing to do is, and if I was in that person's shoes, what I would do is I would try to develop the meditation in as relaxed as possible. Whatever format, whatever method, just try to practice in a very relaxed manner, and to put a little bit more emphasis into investigation, because as I mentioned before, samadhi in itself, it's you can induce samadhi to a point through mental effort, but in essence, the vipassana practice, the wisdom practice, has at least 2 to 3 times more effective power in the long run than just pure tranquility. Some people can get tranquil reasonably quick, but they have to bring in the investigation, otherwise they tend to slow down. You have to keep those 2 factors together. Let's see if I can get this screen back. Let's have a look here. And question 1, Crystal from East Coast, USA. I am a beginner and learn meditation by listening to Ajahn Brahm's talks. I have come to a roadblock that I cannot seem to overcome. It's my strong craving for food. I have tried being mindful of what I am doing, but I still cannot stop. How do I end this mental craving, and how do I overcome it. So with the say strong craving for food, the driving process, for anyone who's really into food, and it could be anything. It can be chocolates. It could be anything. Pickled vegetables, whatever takes your fancy. That the food in itself is not a problem. It's the desire. It's the as you understand, the desire and the craving for. That's where the difficulty is. That's where the problem is. And you can induce a sense of even detachment, letting go. So, for example, if I was going through something like that, what I would do is if you really want to knock this one on the head, you get into the you can do things like, let's see, very easy way to work with is, so for example, I am let's see if I was attached to say something like chocolate ice cream, really attached to it, then what you can use very specific mantra formulations to counteract that desire. So you use a set of words. As most of you understand, you can generate a certain attitude, feeling through different mantra formulations. So you could use something like, say, like chocolate ice cream makes you fat and unhealthy, and is a cause for diabetes. So it sounds very simplistic, but you're just reshaping the attitude, and it is possible. Even as the Buddha mentioned in the suttas, that you can see something as very beautiful, you can see something as quite unattractive, you can see something as neutral. You can see it any way you like. It's just a mode of seeing, so like a view you have of whatever it is. So I mean, if I was in that situation, that's what I would do. And because you're being very, very specific, you're zeroing in on the particular. Could be anything, food, sports car, this or that. Something which really obsesses the mind, and try to increase the detachment. But there's other little tricks like you can do things like let's see now. Things like with the body contemplation, like say, chocolate ice cream is made largely of water element. So you can use this earth, wind, water, fire. Chocolate ice cream is made of water element. So instead of thinking, oh, chocolate ice cream's just, I just really love the stuff, I could eat 1 or 2 litres in one hit. You think, well, it's this detachment thing again. Developing this attitude, chocolate ice cream is watery in nature. It melts, it becomes liquid. Especially when the ice cream is completely melted away, it's not so appealing anymore. Not like when it comes straight out of the fridge. And so you can manipulate your perception, the way of seeing one's object or one's desire. And what else could you do? Things like emptiness. This particular thing or object is empty in nature, is changeable in nature. Yeah, my desire for this particular object is empty or changeable in nature. So there's a few there you can work with. You can get very you can use more sort of stronger, very, very firm formulations, but might be better off to use the say the soft options, user-friendly principles first. There's nobody else, so I'll finish up.